In any dispute, the map is the first weapon drawn. It is the silent architecture of power, shaping the very world we think we see. Welcome to Insight History HD. Together, we will peel back the layers of narratives long locked away in the archives of history.
You were likely taught that a map is a work of science, a neutral guide from one point to another. But this view, as one analysis on territorial disputes confirms, is a dangerous fiction. A map is not merely a tool for navigation. It is a declaration, an argument, a means of shaping perception. So it forces us to ask a more fundamental question. If a map is not just for finding our way, what is it truly for? And where does its power actually lie?
This is not some relic of a bygone era. This is the landscape of modern conflict, playing out right now. On a tiny collection of islets, Japan and South Korea draw two different maps, each claiming the same rock. China publishes its standard map, a document its neighbors call a fantasy, an attempt to claim an entire sea with ink. Every one of these conflicts is, at its core, a war of maps.
To understand how a simple drawing can hold such immense power, you have to learn to see the world through the eyes of a state. And the state has one overriding need: the need to see, to simplify, and ultimately to control a world that is inherently complex.
This brings us to a crucial concept, defined by the political scientist James C. Scott: legibility. It is the state's grand, often invisible project to make society readable, to take the chaos of reality and rearrange it into something standardized, something governable.
But this impulse can turn sinister. Building on Scott's work, the Ribbon Farm blog outlines a chillingly predictable process. It begins when a state observes a reality it cannot understand. Instead of admitting its own limits, it blames reality itself for being irrational. Then, it designs a simplified utopia and uses its power to force it into existence. The result is almost always failure.
You can see the transformation right here. On one side is the world as it is, organic, messy, filled with local knowledge and custom. On the other, the state's ideal, a perfect grid of straight lines and uniform laws. It is the process of turning a living, breathing forest into a cold, sterile spreadsheet.
But making the land legible was only the first step. The next great project was even more ambitious: to make the people living on that land just as readable, just as orderly. In the 19th century, the French philosopher Alexis de Tocqueville looked at the young American nation and identified a key to its unity. He called the Postal Service the great link between minds. He saw that it was never just a delivery system, it was the nervous system of a new republic. The history of the Postal Service is really the story of a nation weaving itself into existence. It started during a revolution as a secure line of communication. Its relentless expansion westward didn't just follow the nation's growth, it drove it, creating a physical map of interconnected communities out of a vast wilderness.
The sheer scale of this network is hard to comprehend. According to the official publication, the United States Postal Service and American History, by the year 2000, the USPS was handling well over 200 billion pieces of mail every year. This was a state-run system with a direct line to nearly every single citizen.
And of course, this was never just about delivering postcards. By standardizing addresses, by giving every home a fixed point on the national grid, the state suddenly knew where everyone was. The population became visible, countable, and reachable for taxes, for laws, for military conscription.
Which brings us to the smallest and yet perhaps the most elegant tool in this entire project, the one piece that synthesized the state's control over both its territory and its people.
As one analysis of East Asian postage stamps puts it, the stamp is a form of government discourse, the smallest messenger of the state. Think about that. Not just payment for a service, but a tiny billboard carrying an official message from the seat of power into every home. And consider the images chosen for these messengers. A stamp bearing the face of Benjamin Franklin constantly reinforces the nation's revolutionary story. A photograph by Ansel Adams defines the epic, empty landscape of the West. A painting by Winslow Homer projects an identity of rugged resilience. Every stamp tells a small piece of the official story the state wants to tell about itself.
So when we place all these pieces together, the lines on a map, the standardized addresses, these tiny potent stamps, what is it that we have actually built?
We see that these are not passive objects. They are not simply the background noise of our lives. They are the active, powerful tools a state uses to construct a simplified reality, a reality it can understand and, therefore, govern.
Now, it would be easy to dismiss all of this as history, but the project of making the world legible is not over. It has simply evolved, exchanging its old tools for new ones.
A report from the USPS Office of Inspector General reveals a profound shift. By 2020, 40% of the population were digital natives, people born into technology, with little need for the physical mail that defined the past. The old world of paper and post is fading.
And the state is adapting. The fundamental project of legibility is now moving into the digital realm. In Finland, for example, a service called Net Posti gives every citizen a digital account tied directly to their social security number. It is, in effect, the modern version of a permanent state-issued address.
This leaves us with a final and crucial question for our own time. If the state once saw its citizens through the simple grid of a map and the physical network of the mail, how does it see us now? How does it make us legible through the sprawling, invisible architecture of our data? If this journey has offered you a new perspective, support our exploration by subscribing to Insight History HD. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next narrative.